Sean Diddy Combs, who has pleaded not guilty to charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution, verbally addressed those inside the New York City courtroom where he was being tried on May 20th. "I love you all," said Combs aloud as court adjourned for the day, before adding under his breath, "Yeah, love." He then turned to a woman in the gallery and said, "Please let Justin know I'm thinking of him." While Combs has yet to take the stand, several notable figures have already testified, including ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura. "It was always in the back of my mind that I would somehow be hurt by him," Ventura said. "Sean is a really polarizing person. He was very charming. I just didn't know what would happen." She testified she participated in hundreds of sex parties, known as freak-offs, with hired escorts, at the instruction of Combs.
Day 8 of the Diddy trial. Walk us through what agents say they discovered at the Star Island mansion raid.
So a gentleman by the name of Gerard Gannon was the lead person from the Homeland Security Special Agent investigation at the home of Sean Combs in Miami. That was in March of 2024. And he testified to what they were able to find in the house. The jurors saw the actual exhibit, so there were times where Mr. Cannon, Special Agent Gannon, was able to open up those plastic bags and show the jurors exactly what was found inside the home of Sean Combs. So more drugs. We've already heard that Sean Combs, from other witnesses, did drugs, had drugs. This is the first time that the jurors were able to really see some of the pictures and then the confirmation from the special agent about what these drugs were. So he described blue pills, black pills, orange pills, pink pills, and many of them testing positive for cocaine, ketamine, MDMA, and other drugs like that. So the jurors heard more about the drugs and also sex toys. There were a few sex toys that were found inside the bedroom.
Homeland Security agent Gerard Gannon testified about what was found during the March 2024 raid of Diddy's Miami mansion. He opened plastic bags in court and showed jurors what was inside. Blue pills, black pills, orange pills, pink pills. Most tested positive for cocaine, ketamine, and MDMA. Also shown, several sex toys and 18 platform heels found inside the bedroom. Cassie testified she was forced to participate in freak-offs even while suffering from urinary tract infections, UTIs. "I would get sores on my tongue from the freak-offs, from taking drugs, from oral sex, from having my mouth on things with oil and lubricants." She said Combs threatened to release footage if she stopped. Former Danity Kane member Dawn Richard testified she saw Diddy assault Cassie. She said Cassie wore sunglasses to hide the swelling after being hit in the face. Photos shown to jurors revealed bruises on Cassie's leg, shoulder, and below her waistline. Cassie also admitted she sometimes helped organize the freak-offs.
Condoms and prophylactics during his time working for Diddy. Then there was the testimony of a male escort named Sheree Hayes. In his line of work, he went by the name The Punisher. He laid out what he said happened during freak-offs he was allegedly hired to be part of. He claimed that Combs entered the room in an instance only wearing what seemed like a Muslim hijab, carrying Astroglide. The Punisher said he noticed it because of the purple cap, which we do see in the government evidence photos, and he explained that it was sexual lubricant. He also said he had no communication with Combs during the freak-off as he wore allegedly that veil over his face and nothing more. The government is also submitting several images that show drugs that were seized from the house in Miami. Here's a picture of some of that evidence laying on top of a Gucci designer bag. We have had to blur a lot of the drugs because of the rules of YouTube, but I'm going to describe for you.
A male escort named Sheree Hayes, known as The Punisher, described his experience during a freak-off. He testified Diddy entered wearing what seemed like a Muslim hijab, carrying a bottle of Astroglide lubricant. "He wore a veil over his face and nothing more," said Hayes. Evidence photos showed bottles of Astroglide in the house.
This is a picture of a Ziploc bag that has several different kinds of pills. Some of them are pink, white, blue. There's also a rolled up $100 bill right next to that bag. In another plastic bag, there are more pills. These seem to be two separate kinds as well. Some are white, some are yellow. Then there are orange and pink pills you see here that, according to the Homeland Security special agent who is testifying today, that's the party drug MDMA. It's similar to ecstasy. This is according to the Homeland Security special agent who testified today about what they saw in Miami during this raid. Now, we don't get descriptions in the evidence drops to tell you exactly what these pills are, but when it comes to drugs, Combs's former assistant, David James, testified this week that Diddy allegedly took drugs every day when he worked for him. Specifically, throughout the day, he would take Percocets and then switch to ecstasy at night. Then there is this picture. It's a small alleged container of cocaine. The government found it with a rolled up dollar bill next to it. That cocaine has a label on it that says DBL WASH.
Federal agents presented images of pink, blue, yellow pills, rolled up $100 bill, a container of cocaine labeled DBL WASH, a locked green container with Diddy printed across, 2 large bags of marijuana.
The government found it with a rolled up dollar bill next to it. That cocaine has a label on it that says DBL WASH. Agents also found this green locked heavy duty container. It says Diddy right across the front. And then this picture shows what it appears they found inside, which includes 2 large bags of marijuana. Along with the bags of drugs and the adult toys that agents found during this raid, they also found several weapons inside the home. Here's a picture of a handgun they found. You might remember that sketch from earlier, the special agent presenting it to the jury today. There's also a magazine and bullets that appear to go with that style of firearm. Then there are pieces to AR-15 rifles like this. The government says the serial numbers on those guns.
Agents recovered a handgun, magazines and bullets, AR-15 rifle receivers with defaced serial numbers. One had a skull and crossbones. Another had a biohazard logo.
That you might see an exotic dancer wear, and you can also see the rope and another adult toy in the box as well. Now here are some more high heels with some more adult toys nearby. The name of the adult toy, it is too graphic to say, but it appears to be an adult toy that's used for oral sex. Now then, there are several bottles of Astroglide lubricant. This came up in court multiple times this week in testimony.
In Diddy's bathroom, messages were found on a mirror written in lipstick. What do you want? Love you. Love Diddy. You are legend and breathe.
People were thinking he was going to be here possibly today or even tomorrow, but due to a scheduling conflict, he's not here yet, but he is expected to still testify.
And the reason his testimony is important is because maybe there was overlap during the time frame in which he dated Cassie, and perhaps she was with Diddy at the time.
So again, when you think about the elements of this crime, arson is one of them in terms of the racketeering, the conspiracy. And again, all of this is going back to leading an enterprise because of Combs' sexual desires. How Kid Cudi comes into play with this is Cassie Ventura testified that she was dating him briefly at the end of 2011. Cassie's mother, Regina Ventura, testified that Kid Cudi did come to the house around that time. This is also the time that Ventura said that Combs threatened her and threatened Kid Cudi, and allegedly said that he would blow up Kid Cudi's car. We know that his car exploded in 2012 per Cassie Ventura's civil lawsuit. And then the 3 of them apparently had a meeting at the Soho house to sort of make sure, according to Ventura, that Kid Cudi knew the relationship was off. Sean Combs was there. According to Ventura, Combs told Kid Cudi when he asked about his vehicle, what vehicle? So that's where you could possibly see this connection to the arson. But we do know that Combs has denied being involved in that in any way. So we'll see what happens. But I think that's what they're looking for. That Kid Cudi testimony could help to make sense of this idea of the car, the explosion, the allegations surrounding that, and if Combs had anything to do with that, or what more Kid Cudi might say happened beyond him asking Combs about the car and Combs saying.
Cassie's mother testified that Kid Cudi came to the house in 2011. Combs allegedly threatened to blow up Cudi's car. In 2012, Cudi's car exploded. When asked about it, Combs allegedly said, What vehicle?
You mentioned the forensic psychologist, Dawn Hughes. She was testifying today. Why is her testimony important?
Dr. Dawn Hughes, this forensic psychologist, said that she was giving subject matter testimony. She was speaking generally about the abuse that victims face and how likely it is for them to stay in these relationships for a long time. She talked about things that they would deal with over a period of time when it comes to coping mechanisms or memory and things of that nature. So she was there talking directly to the jurors. I noticed that she would look right at the jurors and explain, these are things that we expect when we're dealing with domestic violence victims, or this is why someone might stay, and this is how they might suppress memories in order to cope with certain different situations. But on cross-examination, the defense is really going in about the fact that she is not a, quote, sort of expert on the case of Cassie Ventura or other people that might be testifying. So they're making a point to say, isn't it true that even in your line of work, you are not supposed to kind of make generalizations about anyone? Sure, you can have your research and your experience, but they were very focused on making sure the jurors understood that this expert had not reviewed psychological material regarding Cassie Ventura, had not interviewed Cassie Ventura, had not examined anything that had to do specifically with this case. And the doctor said that that was true, but she was able to make some generalizations to help the jurors better understand some of the patterns of people who are victims of domestic violence.
But again, that goes back to the point of domestic violence, not sex trafficking and racketeering.
It is, right? And I think, again, there's this interesting sort of thread, if you will, and there are so many different elements that the jurors are going to have to consider when it comes time for them to decide beyond a reasonable doubt.
Dr. Dawn Hughes, forensic psychologist, explained why some victims stay. Victims may suppress memories or go along with abuse out of fear, she told jurors. Defense argued she never evaluated Cassie, so her testimony was only general.
The biggest hurdles that they're going to have to prove here is the idea that this was an enterprise. Remember, one of the things they've charged is a racketeering conspiracy. In order for this to be racketeering, there has to be an enterprise. It can't just be one person doing this on his own. It's a little tricky when you only have one person sitting there in the defendant's chair, right? He's the only person charged right now. So it's a little hard to show that it's an enterprise. And one way that they're going to have to show that is by, drawing out people that worked for him, what they did to help advance this racketeering enterprise, including helping Combs buy these drugs that were then used both recreationally by Combs, but also to help facilitate these freak-offs.
Yeah, and it's not only just drugs. I mean, there's images that we've seen of like white powder, for example, drugs that you would assume are not legal, but then there's prescription drugs that he was able to get. And typically for folks that aren't music moguls, your doctor's not going to give you that amount of certain drugs. Cassie's testimony, from what we've heard from our reporter in the courtroom, it was incredibly raw, it was incredibly emotional. She's been described by many as the star witness in this case. What do you make of the decision to have her go? And I know she's 8.5 months pregnant, so her availability probably factors into this as well. But for her to go early in this case and kind of set the tone, as opposed to building up your case and then having her come in as somewhat of a grand finale at the end.
Prosecutors say Diddy's assistants helped him get drugs, proving this was an organized enterprise, not a personal habit. A key charge is racketeering, which requires more than one person. Evidence shows Diddy did not act alone.
It's not a great look to see defense counsel beating up on somebody who's 8.5 months pregnant. So there probably was some of just the practical, let's get this in before she becomes unavailable side to the decision. But also, when I was a prosecutor, we always you want to start strong and you want to end strong. Anything that's kind of boring, troublesome, you kind of want to bury in the middle of your case. For them, Cassie's a really important witness because she can speak to, this many years of what happened during this racketeering conspiracy. She was there, with Combs and a part of his life throughout, most of the charged time period, and she can speak to a lot of the various racketeering incidents that have been charged, but she can also give a very good overview of what he was like as a person. She testifies about the abuse, she testifies about the coercion. Through her, they're able to show this video, the CNN video showing his abuse in the hotel room. So I think she was a really important witness. I really can't imagine saving her for the end. It would be hard to kind of paint this picture without her going in the beginning.
Because I think of what she said, and yeah, she was a young girl at the time that they met. She said that she was innocent to a lot of things. She talks about doing these drugs, and then now you're hearing more about.
Prosecutors brought Cassie early in the trial because she was 8.5 months pregnant. She set the tone, said one former prosecutor. Her emotional, raw testimony established a foundation the jury can't forget.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was a prosecutor for many, many years, and I read about the allegations in this case, and my jaw kind of drops. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that stuff's happening. And I'm somebody who I think of as having pretty thick skin with this. It's really shocking. It's hard to hear about. I imagine what the defense is really going to harp on throughout the case, but particularly when it comes to closing, is this idea that, the jurors can hate Combs. They can find this lifestyle disgusting. They can find him to be perverted, but that's not what's charged. He's not charged with being a scumbag. He's charged with being a racketeer. He's charged with being a sex trafficker. So they're really going to focus on, put aside everything you've heard about this lifestyle, try to separate that from the criminal elements. It's a hard thing to do. It's a very fine line to walk, right? I mean, jurors are people just like you and I, and it's very hard for somebody to tell us, yes, he's just a domestic abuser, he's just, somebody with this, abhorrent lifestyle, but he didn't commit these certain crimes. That's hard for jurors as it is for anybody to get their head around. So it's a pretty tricky defense, I think, to make successfully, but that's certainly the approach that they're going to take, as they, indicated during opening statements.
Right. I mean, they're saying, look, I mean, you may not like the CNN video, but that's not a smoking gun for what he's accused of in this trial. Related to the drugs, why not charge him with some drug-related offenses, considering he was taking so many of them, and there's evidence that the government has of illegal substances in his house, where I would think for a regular person, if you were found to have, for example, cocaine in your home, which there's white substances that he had, that someone would face a charge, but he's not.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that for, a number of different crimes that you've seen. So for some of the...
Jurors must separate the lifestyle from the law, said Barrett Berger, former federal prosecutor. They may see Diddy as a terrible person, but that alone doesn't prove sex trafficking or racketeering. Still, jurors are people. And some, like a deli clerk and social worker, now face a world they've never imagined. As court adjourned, Diddy spoke one last time, loud enough for all to hear, "I love you all," then softer, almost to himself, "Yeah, love." And finally, with a glance toward the gallery, "Please let Justin know I'm thinking of him